Hello guys, and with me again is Matt from Anime Blitz. What's up?
What up?
What's up? And today, we're gonna do another anime talk. We also might get into video games or just we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about. As always, thank you for watching. I think I'll mention the topics maybe just before we even get into them.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And we might get on a tangent if we don't do one of these, whatever.
Yeah, these are just the topics we know about.
Yeah, it's a bullet point thing. So I was wondering about the show Erase, which is a big anime going on. So we're gonna talk about that. Last time we mentioned we do Pokemon versus Digimon, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna do anime soundtracks, some of our faves, and then just top 3 essential anime, and we'll get more into that later. And then if we're still willing and able, we'll talk about video games that are coming up soon and what our thoughts are on that, and hype, basically. Hype is real.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, man. And
So speaking of hype, you brought up Erased, and it's what everybody's talking about.
yeah, I know, there's always at least like one show going on.
Yeah.
Before I think it was like One Punch Man, which I haven't seen yet, but like
I haven't either. I heard it's awesome though.
like the Attack on Titans and Kill the Kills, and there's always at least one.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, there was some people who were talking about Kill la Kill maybe not being as great as everyone made it out to be. And I liked it. I kind of saw it in like the best way I could. I saw it at Otakon when they premiered the first 4 episodes of the dub, and everyone was cheering and going crazy. But then when I tried to watch it on my own outside of that environment, I liked it. I didn't love it quite as much as I did without, the intensity of the crowd behind me. So when you talk about a show like Erased, I sit there and like count the seconds until 12:30 each Thursday when the stream starts, because it's just that good. So do you know anything about the show?
No, that's what I wanted to learn from you. I know it's like a mystery sort of, and I've basically heard just very fast opinions like, oh, it's really great, or oh, it was. I think someone mentioned like the creator they did something and they were skeptical that the ending would be good because of this creator or something. I don't know. Like,
so I can't necessarily. Yeah. So like about the creator, this is only from what I've heard of other, this is only what I've heard for other people say. So I can't confirm it 100%. But from what I understand, the creator was a huge fan of the manga, and apparently kind of sped through the first couple books of the manga, or at least a good portion, very quickly in the first episode. So I know people were skeptical about that, but I haven't read the manga. It certainly hasn't messed with the story in any way. I still enjoy it quite a bit. Basically, the show follows this 29-year-old down and out, kind of in between what he wants to do in life. He was a manga artist for a while, but he wasn't very successful. His boss said he wasn't putting enough of himself into the work. So now he works as a delivery guy for a pizza place. He's not doing the best a 29-year-old can do. His name's Satoru. And he's always had this power he calls revival, where he can sense, usually it's someone's about to die, but something bad is about to happen. And he'll see, they show it in the screen where like this little translucent blue butterfly goes by, and he notices it, or at least we do, and he realizes a revival's about to happen, and he has deja vu for about the last 1 to 5 minutes. That's about how long he goes back for. And he has a chance to stop what's about to happen. The only catch is he's got to figure it out while it's happening. They don't tell him what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So he has no idea, at least so far in the show, why this happens to him. It's just always happened to him. And sometimes it gets him into trouble trying to save someone. Sometimes it works out. And clearly it didn't go well the first time we saw, because that's what spawned the entire show. One attempt to save someone went wrong, kind of, and that kind of unraveled from there into this big conspiracy that traces all the way back to when he was young. So it's great.
Yeah, it sounds very psychological.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't there like a little girl character?
So how much would you like me to reveal about this show?
Okay. All I know is that there was a little girl, and I was watching this guy named Bob Samurai. He does anime reviews, and he was
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he was mentioning how people are pushing. He was talking about romance in anime. He was saying how weird it was because some people were pushing those two, a little girl and this old guy, together, and he used that as a way to say there's a problem in anime. Or
Right.
Like, he was saying that that's weird, and I do think that's a bad
So,
thing.
I guess what I'll say about that is people are certainly, in my opinion anyway, pushing something that isn't there. But the little girl, Kaio, was murdered, I think it was about almost 20 years ago, and he finally has the chance to save her. And doing so, he has to get close to her. So people get the wrong idea about that, and that's all I'll say about that, because there are a lot of interesting twists and whatnot going on. But I've never got that vibe where it's a creepy kind of way.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the whole thing was, he's in his younger body at the time. So, I'm trying not to get too spoilery about it, but I feel like when you're in the body of an 11-year-old, even if you do have the mind of a 29-year-old, after being talked to like that, going to school like that, interacting with your friends like that, it's got to, like, mess with you a little bit. To where you're not thinking exactly like a 29-year-old would after, say, a week of dealing with that. So I think that it's just people being weird. Just like, unfortunately, some anime fans are.
Yeah, the weeaboos. No, I'm joking.
You could say that, yeah. You ever see the Filthy Frank video on weeaboos?
Yeah.
Excellent depiction.
Yeah, my friend quotes that all the time.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Funny story. You want to hear a funny story about kind of weeaboo-ish things?
Go for it.
When I was at Otakon last year, my buddy said the one thing that he has to get from the dealer room is, like, the most disgustingly, like, over-the-top sexy body pillow. So that way his girl would come home and she'd be like, "What are you laying on?" And he'd be like, "Check it out." And it would just be, like, some chick with, like, huge tits and everything. So and of course he did end up getting the creepiest one. But while we were there, he was like, "Hey, you got to help me pick it." And I was like, "Hey, man, you're asking me to go way too much into my own psyche about what does it for me if you're asking me to pick this seriously with you." So it was a really strange bonding experience for us, but I think we're closer because of it.
I've heard like the weirdest. I haven't been to an anime convention yet, but I hear the weirdest stories. It's always like behind the scenes, like.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can say I've been to Otakon twice now, and it is such a fun time. It's truly a place where people, like, they don't judge you at all, because they can't. They're at Otakon too.
Yeah.
It's a great time. It's such a positive experience. I recommend it. Going someone. I mean, I'm sure there's some where you're from.
Yeah. So to end a race, just recommend it.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And shameless plug if you are listening to this, but I do weekly reviews for 4 different shows right now, and Erased is one of them I talk about each week. And I usually spend the most time talking about Erased. So if you're interested in that, I do it every week.
Yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed, you aren't clicking the annotations I'm putting up, and you are doing something wrong with your life. That being said, which topic do you want to do? The Pokemon Digimon?
Yeah, let's do that.
Alright, so do you want to just do your background for each series and then jump into why you think one is better than the other?
Sure. You want to start it then?
Okay.
I just went on and on about Erased. I'd love to hear you speak on Pokemon now.
So Pokemon was when I was a kid. I did watch the show. I had a lot of the VHSs that I would watch repeatedly. I played some of the games, but the anime I think was a little bit more important. And as time went on, I did enter that phase. I was like, no, Pokemon's for children. Even though I was like 12 years old. Not even 12. I must have been like 10. And I was saying that. And then a couple years later, back when, people started getting older, like my older brother, he was, some of his friends were playing Pokemon again. And he was doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to play some Pokemon because I was mature by now. Or like pre-teen mature, I guess.
You were out of the angst.
Yeah. I was out of the 10-year-old angst, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever angst there is there. But I played through Leaf Green, and it was amazing.
Nice.
I barreled through Emerald, Pearl, and then Soul Silver was the one that I played literally for hundreds of hours. And I'm not even making that.
And quick aside, there's really no better feeling than the first time you beat the Elite Four. You feel
really
like the
great.
biggest badass.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And in Soul Silver, when you beat Red, it's just as great, I would say. And because Red is a great character, because he doesn't say anything, unlike Ash. Anyway,
right.
So the anime I have kind of gone back to. I've watched occasional episodes, but I haven't watched the whole. I obviously haven't watched all Pokemon because that's literally almost impossible. And it's still airing.
Yeah.
But you should do episode reviews on Pokemon. Pokemon 2000.
You know what's funny? There's a Yu-Gi-Oh series going on right now that someone I'm subscribed to is doing weekly reviews of.
And there's a Digimon show.
Yeah, there is. Although, you know what? I'll save it for Digimon. Yeah. There's something interesting I heard about Digimon recently. We'll save it.
Yeah, and so with Digimon, it was as far as the card games and all that, I just couldn't get into that. It's something I would like to do eventually for a little while, but for Digimon, again, couldn't get into the cards. But the show, I watched it a little bit, and my big Digimon thing was when I watched Digimon the movie, because I had that VHS, and the weird opening segment where they had a weird shitty opening segment where they tried to plug this Nickelodeon show or something. And then everything after that with the American voice actors and the soundtrack with fucking bare naked ladies and all these others.
Oh, the soundtrack was great.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
I really think most of the American budget for voice acting and all that went strictly to the soundtrack because it was so good.
Like, that's the reason those movies probably got into theaters, because they were pitched as, well, for a couple $1,000s we can just voice over someone else's work and then put it in theaters. So that's unfortunately that was probably the pitch they gave. But you know,
you'd be stupid to say no to that pitch.
Yeah, as far as Digimon the movie, again, I was when my nearby Blockbuster closed, they had Digimon the movie on DVD.
Oh,
so
nice.
I had to pick that up, and that's like $20-$30 online. The DVD.
Really? It's up to that now.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that because I definitely picked up some stuff that I played as a kid when my Blockbuster closed too. Didn't get quite as cool of a pickup, but that's still awesome.
Yeah, and it was only like 50 cents because they were just throwing everything out the window at this point.
We should totally collab review on Digimon the movie sometime.
Yeah.
Because clearly we both have some strong feelings for that movie.
Yeah, and it's by the same director of Summer Wars, which I did a review for, and I mentioned that briefly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And,
nice.
And that's an established director. He directed, like, Wolf's Children and all this other shit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So, yeah, as far as Digimon, and I remember my friend, a YouTube buddy of mine, he's a big Digimon guy. He's playing the recent Digimon game. And he like won't shut up about it.
I heard it's good.
Yeah, I'm calling you out, Keith. But anyway, so yeah, I'm definitely way more Pokemon. Like, I don't want to say Pokemon's better than Digimon because I haven't been on that side of the fence as much, and nobody picked on me as a kid for liking one over the other. So I'm definitely on the Pokemon side, and I play the games every year still. So that's where I lie.
You know, it's tough for me to decide because when I was a kid, I didn't have a Game Boy. I didn't have a Game Boy until Game Boy Advanced. So my real experience with Pokemon were the card games, both the trading card game, the collectible ones, and the actual ones you could play and battle with. Although that was a very complicated game for kids. Like, looking back, that was a little more complicated than most kids wanted to learn. They were just worried about getting those holographics, and that was it. I liked the show a lot. That basically ruled my life as a kid, and the merchandise. I had a buddy that had a Game Boy, so we played Red on his. We glitched it. We caught Missing No, all that good stuff. Fucked up his Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but
quick note, my brother, on his Red, you know that one thing you can do to get Mew that they found out how to do, where you go up the bridge and all that?
Yeah.
Like, and people figure out how to do that years later. He did that on his, and it was like literally, like,
you gotta talk to a certain trainer, and then you have to get caught in a random battle. It's interesting,
and all this shit. and like literally I couldn't have Mew on my current like, because I have the same Pokemon from Leaf Green that I do now, that has been with me through the years. We've been on a journey, but yeah, like just that idea to have Mew in Red was amazing.
Oh yeah, totally. And I don't know if you know the history of Mew, but do you know why it was in there but not available? I only recently learned this.
I know about Mew and like he's 151 and that he's like, I know about Mew obviously.
Right.
Why wasn't he in the game?
So apparently, and this is what I've read from a lot of people, they said that Mew was something they gave out to winners of Pokemon tournaments and things like that. So you actually got a certificate if you got Mew the correct way. But they had to include him in the game to do that because they didn't have DLC back then. So there were ways to glitch and get it.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened.
So they just put his little code in there, but didn't want people to get it unless they earned it a super way.
And here's a real funny aside. They included Mew, and I think it was Mew. But they included something, we're just going to say Mew for argument's sake. The very last minute, after they'd already gone through their testing and all that, they just decided to throw it in anyway and just hope for the best. And it ended up working out, but that could have seriously fucked up the programming if they inserted it the wrong way. So good that worked out for them.
Yeah. Fun fact, you know, because the Pokemon 20-year anniversary is going on, do you know that they're giving away Mews at GameStop?
Are they?
Yeah, it's going on right now, I think.
I need to get myself to GameStop.
I know. I picked up 2 just for the sake of it in case
one
didn't work. So yeah, that was, and it's not as cool as like catching them in a cool way.
Yeah.
Because it just transported, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But it's still awesome.
Okay. Now, one of my favorite glitches, we're talking about missing note, talking about getting Mew. One of my favorite glitches was, they call it Glitch City. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, doesn't it just like turn, what does it do?
So basically, and I'm actually going to send you a link, and I'll send you the correct timestamp. What you do is you go into the Safari Zone, and basically, if you save it in the Safari Zone, and I'm going to get the exact thing wrong, but you save it, you turn it off, you load it back up, you leave the Safari Zone, and it thinks that you're done, essentially. So basically, it sends you out of the Safari Zone. You walk your 500 steps around the city. Then it flies you back into the office of the Safari Zone. When you walk out, your game is totally glitchy. And so here you go. I'm going to link you to this right now.
Okay.
That link I sent you, click to about 334 in the game, or in the video, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So basically, it glitches the entire level to where it's completely broken. And it's actually a really easy glitch to do. And the way to fix it is simple. You just reset your game, because you're more than likely going to get stuck walking around that.
Open. Well, while my thing waits to open, do you want to do your...
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Digimon while that's going on, because, like I said, my introduction to Pokemon was so late. And of course, since then, I have gotten Red version, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I've never played another version of Pokemon other than Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Which is, I just, something about it feels wrong. I don't know. It was my introduction to it, and I love the scope of that game back then was so incredible, because when you were playing it as a kid, it really did feel like you were going on this huge journey, really. I never played a game like that before. So I don't know, maybe it was just something like that really resonated within me about it.
You think you'd be willing to though? Like.
Oh yeah, I'd love to go back and start playing them again. Like I recently just rebeat Red for the first time.
I would recommend because I think X and Y, like basically everything's 3D and like, the battles are animated. I know if you haven't.
It's terrifying to me as an old fan.
Yeah, and now my video's playing in the background. And I can hear the wonderful soundtrack.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, but I would recommend that one because I think they knew some people were gonna come back, and they kind of catered toward that audience a little bit. There's gonna be a lot of weird Pokemon that even I don't, like in mine, like I don't know what that is. It looks like a sludge of orange with like weird things on top of it, but
okay.
once you get used to it, like just the fact that the battles are animated and you can do so much. There's mega evolutions, which is crazy. But which I used to hate that idea, but I've warmed up to it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, when I heard about that, I was like, that sounds like Digivolving. Straight up.
Because the Mega form in Digimon.
Yeah. And I would also, have you seen Pokemon Origins, the 4-episode anime?
I haven't.
You should, because it's basically they redo Pokemon Red in anime form, and it's only 4 episodes, and it's basically just memories, and then they introduce Mega Evolutions at the end of it.
I'll definitely have to check that out. That'd be a fun one to review then. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been thinking about reviewing select... Yeah, I've been thinking about reviewing select Pokemon episodes that stood out to me as a kid. I always really loved the one that got banned in the U.S. And this is only I saw it recently. It was the one where they went to the Safari Zone and they had to ban it because the owner had a gun. And you said you didn't really watch the show, right?
I think I know what you're talking about.
So this was a huge point of confusion for me as a kid because in that episode, Ash inadvertently caught a ton of Tauros, like a ton. And because that was the one episode we missed as a kid, we didn't get any context, and they just kept referencing these Tauros he had.
Yeah. And I remember this too because I remember when they went back to the lab or whatever, and there was all these fucking Tauros.
Yeah, and Professor Oak was going crazy.
I was like, when did Ash become a badass?
Like, when the fuck did he get all those Tauros?
Yeah.
So when I finally saw it, I felt so vindicated. I was like, that's it. That's how we got it. So that was cool. But as far as, that's my view on Pokemon. I love it. Growing up as a kid, I had a lot of the figures, a lot of the, plushes for it. I had, stickers, the posters, the works. I saw the movie in theaters. I got the old Mew card they gave out for free with your ticket. I was a total, fanatic of Pokemon. That being said, I did love Digimon. I have a lot of good memories of Digimon because it was similar in some ways, but I don't think it was as similar as some people made it out to be. I like the idea of going into the Digi world and all that, and it was really interesting. I liked that it was a little more mature. I hesitate to use the word mature for old Digimon, but it certainly was a little bit darker than Pokemon was, and it followed a better storyline than it actually had some arcs. So I remember. I struggle to say which one's better because my first real RPG was the Digimon World 3 on the PlayStation before I played Pokemon. But I think I'd have to give it to Pokemon on that one.
It is the more popular one, and it has its reasons for being that, but ultimately it's not like you can't love both. It's one of those
things. Yeah. I mean, I definitely love both. And like I was going to say earlier, I've heard that Digimon's gotten a lot more mature recently. They're taking it in a different direction.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and I think it was Digimon Adventure, and it was a little the animation was a little nicer and it was weird. They were playing the cards, but the cards were I don't even know. Digimon cards existed. Digimon cards existed in this world or something.
Ah, yikes! It's like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Did you watch Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, I watched the show, and I played the card games and spent too much of my parents' money on it.
Oh yeah, I actually went to a few Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments too, and I did pretty well.
I went to one. It didn't go well for me because I was a kid, but I was second to last place.
Well, you and I might have a little bit different experience with this, and I don't think you and I have even talked about it, but I am a little bit older than you. I'm 24, turning 25 this year, and you're how old?
I'm about to be 19.
So that's a big difference back then. So it makes sense that our experiences with these shows would be a little different.
Yeah, I feel this experience every time I collab with one of my YouTube buddies because they're all older than me.
I didn't think you were that young, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was in your looking back video when you talked about graduating. I was like, oh shit, he is not as old as I thought he was.
Yeah. That's the same thing that they all that everyone else has said.
But yeah, Pokemon, Digimon, love them both. Have very different reasons for loving each. But yeah, I have strong ties to each, and I still have a lot of merch from both shows.
And I want to talk about anime soundtracks.
Hell yeah.
I want to jump into that.
Mentioned it briefly with the Digimon movie.
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly.
But those were American songs. I like the Japanese songs they put in there, too.
And I think I'll just mention one, you mention one, we'll just go back and
Sure.
Have you seen Noragami?
Oh, it's funny that you say that. That is going to be my next full series review. I'm halfway done it.
Yeah. Are you
Great show.
Are you watching Noragami or Noragami the second season?
Arigato. No, I'm watching Noragami, and I should hold back. It was a good show, not great show.
Yeah.
My initial reaction was great. It switched to good over time.
Yeah, and the guy behind the music for Noragami, he also did Soul Eater, and he did a lot of stuff. And
awesome.
If you look up that soundtrack, it's like really, it's like, it's not just something to be in the background, it's also something I can listen to by myself. And, those are soundtracks I kind of like a little bit more, even though that's not what they're really intended for. So, but, as just a musical album, I like those better.
Yeah,
and
I mean
Origami, it's like really electronic-y and like weird Japanese sounds.
It's awesome. It drew me in a lot, just in those first few episodes.
Yeah. And it helped make that show so badass. It was such a badass show.
Yeah, I mean, I like Yato a lot. I like the characters a lot, but the soundtrack was definitely something else in that show.
Yeah, like just badass battles, amazing animation, and you can just have battles, animation, soundtrack, and it's probably going to be a good show.
Absolutely.
The story is lacking. I don't think the story is lacking.
My beef with it, and this is going to be a bit of a preview, a very short preview of my review. I think that up till episode 9, when he had that big moment with his regalia, I forget the kid's name, Yuki. What, right? Was that it? Yeah. He had his big moment where Yuki finally came full circle and was like, I'm sorry for everything. I really would have liked it if they ended the season on that. But I wasn't feeling that last 2.5 episode arc they did where suddenly the chick is missing. I forget her name.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm trying to remember correctly. And I do I kind of remember what you're talking about. I do kind of wish it was longer, and that's why I'm happy there was a second season, because it felt like almost like a 24 episode anime.
Yeah.
Or something like that, and they kind of condensed it. But
I think that had they made the first season those 9 episodes, because I thought they were really great, and then they took that last 3 episode arc where she was captured by his old mercenary buddy who was super pissed that Yato was no longer killing people. I think if they turned that into a season of itself where she forgot who Yato was, I think that would have been a really interesting season. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, or just an OVA or something.
Yeah. I mean, a movie maybe. That would have been cool.
And Yato, that's his name, right?
Yes, Yato.
Yeah, he was a great
He was awesome.
The fact that he could be funny and he also could be badass and he had his dark past. He was.
Now I think dark. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna the fact that he was a god and that he was dealing with this kind of he wants to be this big famous god.
Yeah.
And he's the run to the litter.
Yep. And he's homeless. He's a homeless god.
And he's doing chores, and then he has to be a badass.
Yeah, for 5 yen, which is such a minuscule amount of money.
Since every time I hear a Japanese number, it's hundreds or thousands. Yeah, it must be.
So 5 yen to dollars, about 0.04. Yeah, it's 4 cents.
4 cents.
Yeah, just over 4 cents.
That is not worth.
No.
I remember hearing a statistic. The time it takes you to pick up a penny off the ground isn't actually equivalent to the time it takes to do it. So the fact that he spent probably a good amount of time for that.
Yeah, and he does save it up a couple times too.
Yeah, and so what would be an anime soundtrack that you enjoy?
Without a doubt, I've got a major hard-on for this series anyway, and you might already know what I'm going to say. Dot Hack has my all-time... and that's just all of them. Even, the really shitty Legend of Twilight bullshit series that was basically all fan service. Even that had a pretty good soundtrack. It's a series and a franchise that, when you talk about it, when you hear people talk about it, the first thing they bring up is, oh, I love the soundtracks. And like you were saying with Noragami, where you could just listen to it, a lot of times when I'm doing work or whatever, I will just put the soundtracks on in the background. I have a mix CD for my car of some of my favorite songs from it, both instrumental and vocal songs. So I think it's a very dynamic soundtrack. They include a lot of very eclectic instruments and sounds to really match the mood of each scene, and I think it's incredible.
Yeah. This next one's a little bit weird, but
oh
have you
boy.
ever heard of the show Panty and Stocking?
I shit you not, that was the first thing that came to mind when you said weird, so I can't believe you just said that. I've heard of it. I've never seen it. I know all about it, though.
Yeah. To just paraphrase what the series is for those who don't know, it's basically an anime. I'm not going to go into the plot, but basically they kind of parody American pop culture a little bit, and the whole thing looks like a cartoon. Like, that's one.
It's kind of got like a Powerpuff Girls vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's like the idea. It's supposed to kind of look like that and parody that. And like the whole soundtrack is in English, so that's kind of a plus because I like to sing along to songs sometimes.
Nice.
And it's the soundtrack guy is the same dude who did Me Me Me, if you know what that is.
I do know what that is.
Yeah. Like, as weird as both these products are, the soundtracks are.
Well, Me 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 is great.
For the soundtrack or for the video itself?
I would say equally to both, you know?
Yeah. No comment on Me 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 from me. But yeah, the soundtrack to both, Panty and Stocking especially, it's there's a lot of singing and like just weird, really cool electronic noises, and I've told this people, you don't need to even watch the show for this. You can just look at the soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I watched Arcada's review, Glass Reflection, on it. He seemed to like the show, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And you're telling me it's good too, so maybe I'll check it out. Yeah,
the show is pretty good. The soundtrack especially, though.
Okay.
Do you know who Giguk is?
Oh yeah, he's great.
I would watch his review because that's basically how I even watched it.
Nice. It seems we've subscribed to most of the big anime reviewers.
Yeah, Giguk was a big inspiration for me.
I actually found out about him after I started doing YouTube, but yeah, I love his stuff. It sucks that he's not as active anymore.
Yeah, he hasn't been active for really years.
Yeah.
And their podcast actually just ended.
Yeah, it did. Potaku. That was sad too.
Yeah, because Tristan, that's his real name, was kind of just like upset it wasn't getting enough views, and he was putting all this hard work into it. So
it just sounded like there was a lot of coordination problems and maybe effort not put in to match. So I get it.
But he also was like kind of like he didn't want to leave it. He wanted it to end, which I was conflicted about that because I still wanted to listen to the podcast. But weird tangent.
Yeah. We're talking about anime reviewers, and I feel like I should probably plug one of my favorites. Not that he needs plugging, but you ever watch Douchebag Chocolate?
Isn't that Douchebag Chocolat or something?
Chocolat. Maybe we can call it that. I always I haven't really read the full name before.
I don't know if I'm subscribed, but I have come across his review. I remember he had a copyright thing.
Did he?
It was hilarious. Yeah, it was like a copyright thing, and it was hilarious. It was basically just a bunch of zombies being coordinated by these dude in suits, and the dude in suits were Google and YouTube, and he was a zombie, and it was great. And so he's.
I'm a big fan of him. I thought his review of Tatami Galaxy was great. You ever seen that show?
I haven't even heard of it.
It is. It's the same director who did Ping Pong the animation, and it's probably like challenge mode for trying to read subs as fast as they're talking. Like I have never seen subs go as fast and be like, wait, what? The whole time they just speak so quickly in that show, but it's an awesome show. So totally big tangent. Back to Panty and Stocking.
Just good soundtrack, and I think I have one or two more. So if you want to give one,
sure. One of my all-time favorites, and I do listen to the soundtrack all the time. Still, is Fooly Cooly. Amazing soundtrack because they basically just took a bunch of music from the Japanese rock band The Pillows, who are an incredible band, and it just adds so much emotion to the show, which is already got a lot of emotional, interesting moments too. I mean, have you seen the show?
Say it again.
Fully Cooley. Also,
oh yeah, Fully. It's only like a couple episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6.
Yeah, I've seen it. I love the idea of the show because it's like that big iron thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's supposed to be iron because you know how the wrinkles in your brain, those are supposed to represent basically your creativeness.
Yeah.
And the idea is it's gonna iron out the wrinkles, and you have to stop the ironing. And
it's
like,
really brilliant how they did that.
It's like a big metaphor, but while you're watching it, you're just like, what the?
The show seems like complete nonsense, and then at the end of it, you're kind of like, well, maybe there was something more to that.
Yeah, it's one of those nonsense, but there's like a secret underlining meaning, and it's kind of up to you to be like, oh, is it this big art thing, or is it just this weird mess? And
I definitely lean on the side of it being a very artistic statement about a lot of things.
Same. And, you know, it's very self-aware because they do fourth wall breaks.
And the animation is fucking amazing in that show.
I love, there was like one part where it went into like a manga form for just
like
a little bit.
They did it in episodes 1 and 6.
In the last episode there, it was like, well, everyone told us to do it again, but it costs a lot of money. It was great.
I love how self-aware it is. I love shows like that. I actually just watched Deadpool, and I loved how self-aware that movie was.
I literally watched it for the second time today.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, I saw it twice in theaters.
Fucking brilliant.
I don't know if I've even ever done that before, but yeah.
I did it for Star Wars, and I did it for Pineapple Express too. Because that's probably one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Same. What are some of the quotes?
I could go on. I thought hurricane season was over.
Yeah, I said that at work one time randomly. He's like, Pineapple Express?
Pineapple
Express.
My buddy and I spent, like, ever since we first saw it, I'll always go to Mr. Folges, and he'll be like, what's up, son? Just like they did in the movie. It's great.
You are high as a fucking cunt. Or, time to suck today's dick.
Yeah.
Someone's probably going to edit me saying that now and put it into something out of context.
Yeah. I'll save it for my own files.
Yeah, great movie.
And back to Fully Cooley, great show. Yeah. And it's probably, without a doubt, one of the best anime series I've ever seen in my life. And proof you don't need a long show to make a great story.
Absolutely. It's really... Because you run into more risks the longer you go. Like
exactly.
Shows like The Walking Dead, for instance, going on right now, where it's like really just kind of dragging on and repeating itself. And just... They use the same tropes over and over again.
To be honest, they lost me in season 2.
That's where
it was so slow.
It only gets slower. And I'm not. I still think it's a good show, and I'm kind of mixed on the current season, but yeah. So, do you want me to do a soundtrack?
Yep, you're up.
Yeah, and this one might not count as an anime, and you probably already know what I'm gonna say. Based
I might.
That. Ruby.
Okay.
Yeah, the soundtrack for that, again, it's English, and it's basically all rock, or it's very cinematic, all the music, and it's basically this one singer girl who's like 17, I think, and she has an amazing voice, and she's just going over these heavy rock songs, or these really well put together piano ballad things, and it's an amazing soundtrack. It's another anime where I'm like, the soundtrack, you don't need to watch the anime. You can just listen to that soundtrack. I'm not even recommending the show. I'm recommending the soundtrack. And Ruby just finished its like 3rd season, and there was a big cliffhanger. But the soundtracks in both aren't as good as season 1, but they're also really good. Nice.
Well, I'm going to end up on... This will probably be my last one. There's a lot that I would say, but this is one of the last few super standout ones. Cowboy Bebop has one of the most incredible soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. I mean, talk about, like, fitting the scene so perfectly. And it's such a dynamic soundtrack, how it can start real brooding and slow and then pick up. And the incredible jazz influences are awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes some very fun fight scenes with Spike watching him go, too.
when we get into the top 3 anime things, spoiler alert, I'm gonna talk about Bebop.
Oh, you're gonna steal mine? Okay.
I mean, I can get a different one.
No. I got one. If you're gonna take Bebop, I've definitely got one.
I think you should take Bebop because I haven't even seen Bebop.
You haven't seen Bebop?
I know. I own it, and it's again one of my best friend's favorite shows.
Jesus, yeah.
I know.
You review anime and you haven't seen Bebop.
I know, it's one of those criminal things. I watched a couple.
Yo, I kid. It's not like a federal offense, but it's interesting.
It's one of those.
You'll love it. You really will.
And I know I will. It's literally I've thought about it sometimes, and I want to save it almost for a better time.
Yeah.
It's like. I do that with some shit and movies. Like, I have the Indiana Jones movies. I have all 3 of them. I've had it for like 3 years in this nice pack, and I just want to have a full day and watch all of them.
Nice.
But that day hasn't come yet. That birthday present I had like 4 years ago that I don't have anymore. Or, I mean, not that I haven't watched yet.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say saving something, because I did that with a series that I really love that is kind of related in a way to Bebop. Samurai Champloo, or Champloo.
Same director, same.
Same. I forget his name, and you know, kill me for not remembering it. But incredible work. Everything he's done, I love, and Champloo is no exception. And I actually saved the last 3 episodes of that because it's just such a great show, and I'm really saving that for a rainy day.
Yeah.
I don't want that show to end.
Yeah, I know it has like hip hop music randomly thrown in there.
And yeah, and that was a big contender for my number 3 soundtrack right there. It's kind of tough to say because they were highly influenced by hip hop, and they infused it with traditional Japanese sounds in a way that was just really awesome.
Yeah, Champloo. I've heard the soundtrack. It's really
fantastic.
Good. Yeah,
like I'm a pretty big hip hop fan, especially like old school hip hop, and I mean they killed it on that soundtrack.
Yeah. I think that's it for me with soundtracks.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go overboard with it. I think we named 6 soundtracks. To sum it up, you had mentioned Ruby, you mentioned Noragami, and you mentioned Panty and Stocking. I mentioned Cowboy Bebop, Dot Hack. Any Dot Hack, but if you had to pick one, without a doubt, Dot Hack Sign, incredible. And I mentioned Fooly Cooly. All great, totally worth checking out.
And then we had the 3 essential anime.
Yeah, we're sticking with our 3s here.
Yeah, 3 central. So just explain again, almost for me too, because I want to get clarity. What you mean with this topic?
So I guess what this would be, it's not necessarily the best ever, because there's certainly difference between your favorite and the best shows you've ever seen. Because there are some movies that I've seen, for instance, that I think are absolutely incredible, but they're not my favorites that I go back to over and over
like
again.
Objective, that's a wonderful movie.
Exactly. Like for instance, the anime movie Grave of the Fireflies. Amazing movie, terribly sad. I have no desire to watch that again.
Yeah.
Saying that's my favorite almost feels fucked up in a way because of how sad it was, but amazing. So basically, this is if your friend was like, "Hey, I want to get into anime. What are 3 shows you'd recommend to me?" And you say, "Well, these shows I just love, and I think you would love them."
Okay.
And I can start if you want to think about it.
Yeah, I think I have mine, but you can go ahead.
So since you're possibly, I don't know if you still are, taking Bebop, I would without a doubt say Dragon Ball Z would be my pick that I might be stealing from you, but I mean, it's a show that I think anyone can enjoy. Because you hear guys talk about it, you hear girls talk about it. It's not a show...
Kids today even.
Yeah, kids today, older people. And you know, if you were going to watch any of it, honestly, I would say Dragon Ball is the place to start. So let me change my answer a little bit. Dragon Ball, without a doubt, is a show you need to watch. Because it's got the whimsical elements, it's got, you know, the humor, it's got the action, it's got the character building. It really encompasses what I love in anime.
Alright, and then you want me to do a show? Or
Sure, yeah. So that would be my number 3.
Yeah. So my three, basically, I tried to kind of get the anime that I think a lot of people should watch, and why I'm gonna get into why I'm recommending each of these. And the first one, even though I haven't seen it, was Cowboy Bebop. That was kind of my retro one, and I do know just so many people like it, and I have heard the soundtrack, and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things where it's such a culturally known anime. Like, half the fun of anime and just media in general to me is talking about it, and that's why I'm here, obviously, because I enjoy talking about it. And so it's one of those cultural, you gotta watch it, even though I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I would choose Bebop.
So to kind of bounce off your Bebop, I mentioned it earlier, but my number 2 would be Samurai Champloo. Or Champloo. I think it's Champloo. I always fuck up saying that.
It's one of those.
Champloo. We'll go with that. Is a fascinating show, and I know I already spoke about it, but beyond the way that it fuses the hip-hop with the traditional Japanese, it weaves a pretty interesting story, and the action scenes are so badass in this show. It's incredible. The style, all of that one director's work, who I just can't remember the name for the life of me, all of his work has a very distinct style to it. And while each show might be a little bit different stylistically, like in the age that it takes place in, etc., I mean, it's just so distinct. And this show is just a blast to watch, especially the art style. It's very colorful and interesting, so highly recommend it, and it's not hard to get into at all.
Yeah. And the second one I definitely wanted to, kind of recommend a shonen, because so many people get into shonen like it's their first thing they watch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a given, like if you're recommending stuff. But I didn't want to give one that was like hundreds of episodes, like a Naruto or something, because that's such a tall order. People are going to look at that and be like, no.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to get into it. So I want to do something that was easy, but was also amazing. So I did Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
So Brotherhood or the original, it really doesn't matter. It's one of those, it's an amazing show. It's easy to get into. It's good for newbies, and it's funny, it's lighthearted, but it's also serious. The action's great, the music's great, and it's all great.
So what are your thoughts, Brotherhood versus the original?
Brotherhood, because I watched Brotherhood first.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I tried just watching the original after that, but I was like kind of just skimming through it because I just watched Brotherhood. So I wasn't even giving it that chance. But I almost wish I watched the original first, so I had something better to look forward to. So I guess for a new person, it doesn't matter. Whatever their preference.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And since you recommended a shonen, I'm very torn on what my number 1 would be, because for me it would be, if it was just me I was recommending to, without a doubt it would be Dot Hack Sign. But I know it's not for everyone. And one show that I mentioned in the previous podcast, I got out of anime for a good while. One of the ones that brought me back was Blue Exorcist, but I didn't think that one was as good and as quite as accessible. So the other show that really brought me back was Bleach. And I'm gonna do an interesting suggestion. I'm gonna say watch seasons 1 and 2, the first 2 arcs, when they go to the Soul Reaper, the Did you watch Bleach? I can't remember what that the other side, if you will. It's been a while, but and then what I want you to do after you watch the logical conclusion of the second arc is pretend everyone died, and just don't go on with the show, because it just drags on and on and on. So don't even worry after that. Like, it's all good. Those first 2 seasons are so much fun, though.
Yeah, that's the resolution. It ends there, we promise.
Yeah, I promise you. Ichigo just goes crazy, kills everyone, and then himself in traditional samurai fashion.
Yeah, and if anyone lives, they walk into the sunset, never seen again.
That's right, yeah. And actually, you know what? Earth's gravity goes, and everyone floats into space.
Yeah, the credits rolled, but they were going so fast you didn't see them.
It's interesting, and it's so confusing that they kept making episodes because they didn't know that it ended. So
I'm pretty sure the episodes are complete blackness. I don't think anything happened.
Yeah. It's occasional dialogue, just with a black hole. So, great 2 arcs, awesome stuff, good character building, very little filler, and that's what I like about it, especially for a shonen, because those are notorious for terrible filler.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be, I mean, if you're just trying to recommend it to someone that wants to get into something accessible, I mean, like you said with the shonen, they're so easy to get into. It's what we started watching back in the day. And you want to recommend something that's not too antiquated. Because I know we mentioned we like the old art style, but some people really just might not.
And the number one thing is, like, it's got to be accessible. So
yeah. And that's what this list is all about. It's not necessarily the best, but to us, the most accessible. Yeah. Hey, I want to get into anime.
Yeah, so accessible, I wouldn't recommend anything with fan service.
No Hitalia.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anything that's... One, I'd always recommend dubbed if I was to show it to a newbie. I would exclude just the shows with the most weird Japanese-ness. And so...
Like, I would avoid Parasite the Maxim for your first episode, or for your first anime. It's a little hardcore, unless you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, nothing like too bloody. It all depends really kind of on who you're talking about.
Yeah, different strokes, whatever you like. For me, I like a little bit of everything in anime, minus, the moe kind of, faux hentai shit that they do. Not into that, not into the little girl stuff, so.
Yeah, same.
No Hyperdimension Neptunia for me.
Yeah, and I think, like, a reason you shouldn't recommend someone's fan service is I think one of the first animes I watched was High School with the Dead.
Oof.
One of the first,
I couldn't finish that.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you should start off. I haven't seen it recently, but I hated it.
Yep.
When I finished it, I've heard, like, actual credible people say, it's great, so if I ever go back on it, we'll see my opinion, but, like, I didn't have a good experience because
I don't know, man.
And I was just like, these weird cartoons are showing their boobs. It's weird.
Yeah, like, I'm down for weird shit, man, but, like, I was even into anime when I watched that, but I was like, I'm good. It just seemed way too cash in, like, fan service. Maybe not cash in is the wrong word, but way too much exploitation on that kind of stuff.
There's hot chicks everywhere.
Yeah. I like my fair share of embarrassing stuff, with things that maybe I would, turn strategically away if my friend saw me watching it, but I don't get down with High School of the Dead.
Yeah. So if we're doing, I wasn't doing these in order. These were just 3 random ones.
I didn't mean to put it in order.
Yeah, if we were doing them in order, I'd flip it completely upside down in Bebop, Full Metal, and then this one. But I was gonna do Attack on Titan because
there you go.
Again, we're doing how accessible, and I don't even remember Attack on Titan in all honesty.
Really?
I remember I liked it. Like I wasn't in love with it. And that's kind of a lot of people say once it got too hyped, they're like, oh, it's good, but I don't love it because everyone else does, and I'm a hipster.
Well, now it's your turn, to cuss at me because I have not seen Attack on Titan.
Yeah, it's one of those shows, a lot of people have seen it, and that's probably the number one reason you should watch it, to be part of
the conversation.
Yeah, and it is a good show, I think, from what I remember, and I watched it like only in like a couple of days, and it's like 24 episodes, so it's definitely worth watching. They ended it on a pretty stupid note, where it was kind of just a bad cliffhanger.
That's what I heard.
Not a cliffhanger, but it just kind of ended.
And then they did Attack on Titan Junior High.
I mean, I don't even know about that. I don't want to.
Then let the name be enough.
There's movies and all this other shit. I'm just like, can I just get a season 2?
That's what everyone's hoping for.
So yeah, I would recommend that one just because you can be part of the conversations. Because 2, it's like one of those. It's almost like a Breaking Bad in the sense that some tragic shit's gonna happen and you're gonna feel bad, and people love that shit. So, yeah, and there's, it has a unique art style and the soundtrack's good, so I think it's a good starting point if you're a newbie because it's something recent enough and,
Right. You kind of want to watch something a little more recent if it's your first entry, or at least something that's older that has enough of a fan base that keeps it alive, like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, because people are still talking about it, and people wear T-shirts and shit, and you'll be like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a show about giants."
Yeah.
People. And you'll be like, "Okay, I'm interested."
It's kind of awkward being into that. Maybe not even awkward, but lonely being into the show that no one's really into anymore.
Yeah, like when you watch just like a random show on Crunchyroll or something, there's a little less reward almost, because once you finish it, you're like, okay, let me get in this, and
you want to talk about it, but all the threads are over online. No one's talking about it.
Yeah, and that's if I review it, that's almost like I want to start a discussion. So so there's some shows I wish in the future to review because it's part of the discussion, but some I want to expose a little bit more. So yeah.
I don't know that I can come up with a fourth. I'll be honest. Was that your third or fourth?
I believe third.
Oh, was it? Oh, well then never mind. For some reason I thought you had a fourth. Fuck me, whatever.
Nah, Bebop, Full Metal, Attack on Titan.
That's it. Okay, I guess I just talked too long and thought that you talked as well.
No, we're all good.
Cool. Yeah. So to recap, you had Full Metal Alchemist, like you said, Bebop, Attack on Titan, and I had Bleach, Shampoo, and that'd be Samurai Champloo, and Dragon Ball.
Yeah. 6
shows that, even if I haven't seen all of them, I know that you'll enjoy if you're first getting into anime. And if you're looking for that hardcore stuff, you might just want to avoid all those shows, maybe minus like Bebop and Shampoo.
Yeah.
Maybe Attack on Titan.
Again, if I knew who you were better, like if I knew you were a total pervert, there's some anime for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Or if I knew you were like really action heavy, or if you really love comedy, then some like Devil is a Part-Timer would probably be more up your alley.
Yeah.
So
I don't love that show, but I do think it's a pretty great entry, and I said that in my review too. That if I was gonna say, hey, I want to watch a lighthearted show, I'd be like, yeah, Devil's a Part-Timer.
It's a lighthearted, just kind of funny show.
Yeah.
So.
I think they tried a little too hard with the action sometimes, and it didn't come off as well as they'd hoped. But
but again, it was so few and far between.
It was, yeah. And I didn't even really hate Chiho. Was that her name?
Yeah, the Moe character.
Typically, I hate that, but I thought she had her moments.
If you watch the dub, again, I watched Arcada's review, and he was really praising the dub actor.
I like the dub a lot.
The dub was really good.
Typically I watch dubs. I don't prefer subs in any way. I watch them, and I still like them, but I like my native tongue, to be honest. Call me ethnocentric, but I like my anime in English if I can get it that way.
It's really, for me, it's like when it's subbed, I have to be at the screen, like really paying attention. And I literally, if you look away, you're going to miss dialogue.
Exactly.
So I like to, when I watch things, when I review things, I pay a lot more attention, but when I'm just kicking back, I don't want to focus on my screen for 30 minutes and then disperse. I prefer dubbed if there's an option, but again, if it's subbed and I want to watch it, I'm going to watch it.
It's interesting that you say that, because that was the one challenge I was presented with doing 4 weekly reviews every single week. That I actually have to be pretty engaged every time I watch, and I can't watch them late at night because I've got to watch the subs. I've got to read and watch and go back and forth. And while it's not necessarily an arduous task, it's still a little bit more focused than I normally have. And that's not to say that I don't focus on the shows, but sometimes you want to look down for a second.
And certain shows like Devil is a Part-Timer, or even just sitcoms in America, I'm not at my screen focused on it. I'm like, I might check my phone or I'll do something while I'm watching it. And that's not to discredit the show. It's just not that kind of show. So if I'm watching a lighthearted little show that's not a big deal, and I have to focus on the screen, it's not as enjoyable.
Like I'm reviewing a show called Prince of Stride, and it's all right, but that's definitely a show that I would look away from time to time if I have to take a bite of something. I don't want to have to look real carefully while I'm eating and spill the shit everywhere. So
if people think you're possessed, you'll be like, okay.
Yep.
They'll be like, you're an asshole. Look at me. I'm like, I literally can't.
Yeah.
because I have to read so much dialogue.
Do you understand these words? Because I don't. That's essentially how it is. But, you know, I still love subs. I do.
Yeah, it's really... I think we both could do videos on just dub versus sub.
Yeah, and I think most anime people have, too. Because it is a hot topic.
It's a good discussion. I mean, literally every anime viewer has to think about it, so... at one point or another, what they prefer. Because they have to decide, oh, am I going to watch this sub or am I going to watch it dubbed? And... personally, if there's a dub, I'm gonna try to watch it.
Yeah, I mean that's me every time. I really do enjoy the dubs, and like I said, I believe in episode 1 of our podcast that it's just what I was raised on. So of course I'm gonna prefer it.
And again, just like certain things, especially with comedy, like jokes don't land when I have to. By the time I watch the scene, read the thing, and then everything's going on, like the punchline for that joke is gonna go over my head.
Oh yeah.
By the time I'm supposed to laugh, so I'm like late to the joke.
The big thing too is if there's multiple things they're translating at once, like the dialogue, and then there might be like a notebook they have a paper on that says something funny on it, so you got to switch between the two. So those are the shows that give me some challenge.
And some people make the complaint like they don't want to look at this thing and read at the same time. I don't have that much of a problem with it. I don't really understand that complaint, but with me, if I'm watching it and, you know, if I'm having that problem, I'm just gonna, you know, switch over to dub.
Yep.
If I'm actually having a problem reading and watching. But
yeah, it's certainly available enough, you know, dubs are. I mean, you pay a little bit of money to get it on, like, the Funimation subscription service. But it's certainly available if you want it.
Like, and, you know, some shows, like, I think Funimation's working hard to get their dubs out fast.
And their dubs are great.
They really are. Funimation is probably number 1 for dubs, and just...
I would agree with that. And just releasing content at fair prices, too. I mean, for the most part, their prices are very fair compared to, and I've mentioned this in my own reviews, Aniplex, who are
I was just about to say
terrible. Fucking, like, I love the Persona series. It's one of my favorite series, and they released... are you familiar with Persona at all?
No, I want to play the games first, and that's...
So Persona 4 is my favorite. And the one I'd recommend for sure. It's the easiest to get into.
Do I need to play the games, or can I just watch the show?
It depends on...
I want to play the games.
I would play the games first, and then watch the show as a compliment. Because you can do both.
I have no problem playing the games.
You could watch the show first, but I think grinding out all the work and all that yourself in the game is more rewarding. So basically... very quickly, Persona 4 was released, and then they did an expansion, Persona 4 Golden, on the Vita, which is definitely the way you want to experience that game. It's amazing. And they added a new character, they added a little side stuff here and there, and a whole new month at the end of the game. And they released the Persona 4 animation. It was 24 episodes for like a 60-hour game. So that was pushing it, in my opinion. Then they said they were going to release Persona 4 Golden, the animation. So a 12-episode anime series of the expansion. I didn't know how they were going to do it, and it came out pretty well. But then I found out Aniplex was going to be releasing this. So, yeah, you already know how this is going to go. For 6 episodes with some fairly bullshit standard special stuff they included, like art cards, it was $80. And I had to buy that twice, you know, for Volume 1 and 2. It stung a little bit. I'm going to be honest. It stung. But as a fan, you know, I had to do it. I should have said no, but...
Yeah, I collect too, although I collect movies and games and all this, so I have to spend my money elsewhere.
It sucks
sometimes.
being a collector.
Yeah, it really does. And I've made a rule for myself. I'm like willing to sell it once I review it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and that was a big decision for me. But it's making my bank account happier. But,
so do you have much of a stock at your house?
In anime, I have certain movies. I have a couple Blu-rays. I have all of Dragon Ball Z.
Nice.
And that's my crown jewel.
Of course.
I had Fanny and Stocking, like I mentioned. I had Angel Beats, but I learned that was a bootleg that I received.
Okay.
If you go on eBay, anything from Malaysia is Bad News Bears.
Oh yeah.
And you just, I bought that when I was kind of new to anime and I was new to buying stuff.
How was it? Was it a decent bootleg?
I mean, it like came with like an extra disc, like it was like Eureka 7, like a movie of Eureka 7. It was like randomly thrown in there.
That's what they do, yeah. I bought.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the bootleg. It was kind of just the show, and I was having trouble getting sub versus dub. Like I was having like just weird sub for different shit, and it was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I like to have subtitles on when I'm watching movies, in case like it's quiet or something.
Yeah. Just
to help. So yeah, I was having trouble with that, but it was okay, I guess. I don't like bootlegs because I don't feel complete.
You know, it's funny. I'm a big dot hack collector, as I've said, and I was searching eBay because I have all these saved dot hack searches, and I saw a DVD for Legend of the Twilight I'd never seen before, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen it packaged that way before. And I didn't look at the country of origin because, fuck it. And it was cheap enough to where I was like, you know what? They're throwing in a free DVD too? Like, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's like...
It's a very odd version. The coloring's a little weird. And they threw in one of the Evangelion movies.
The case will be randomly kind of nice, and it's,
yeah,
it's passable.
It's really odd. After this podcast, after we're done recording, I'm going to run over and find it because it's just the strangest thing I've ever seen. It's a very strange size that doesn't fit in with any of my other DVDs.
Before we go into the video game thing, you have interested me on dot hack. Where would I start?
Oh boy. Can we do a whole new podcast episode on that? I mean, basically, it's a multimedia franchise.
It's a Gundam type thing, where it's.
I would say even worse because it's a continuous story that does not end in one one series. So basically, the very first entries, technically speaking, in the canon would be these two books. I actually have them right here. It's funny you should say I have them right here. I don't know if you can see that. They're called AI Buster, but they don't really matter if you read them. The actual series you should start with is Dot Hack Sign.
And how long is that?
That is 25 episodes, I believe. And again, I have it right next to me. So it is 26 episodes. And the Funimation one they did was a really great complete collection. Has 2 OVAs with it.
Yeah. Maybe after Erased, I'll watch that.
I'd love to talk with you about it if you do, because the interesting thing about that is it doesn't just span shows. It's got light novels, like actual novels. It's got manga, video game series for the PS2, PSP. They have a PS3 fighting game, and anime series. There's 3 anime series and some OVA series too, and they all contribute to this big story.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like something I get interested in. If I review it, I'm gonna be honest. So if I don't give it a 10 out of 10,
don't.
I'm sorry.
I didn't give it a 10. I didn't give it an A.
Were you being objective or
very?
Subjective?
I was being very objective about it. I mean, I probably gushed a little too long, but no, I gave it a B+ because it's not an A series. The ending sucks.
Yeah, anime endings. That's one of the biggest complaints. A lot of the endings.
You reminisced about how GT killed you as a kid.
Yeah.
Dot Hack Sign was my first major upset, where I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's almost weird. You're like conditioned to less satisfying endings because they have mangas and mangas keep going on, and it's literally a terrible thing for an anime person because the story never ends, like where it never wraps up. Basically, everything's just kind of like, oh, we're done, and obviously every series is different, but like a lot of the 12 episode ones just kind of end, and it's not very satisfying.
Yeah, and the sad thing about this is a 26 episode series with no manga it's based on. It just had a bad ending. So, you know, it is what it is. The rest of the show is amazing, so it's okay.
Does Arcada have a review of that? I feel like does he?
He does, and I really, really disagree with it.
Oh, does he?
He didn't. He shit a little bit on it. Yeah.
He shit on some of my shows, man. It happens.
The biggest thing about Dot Hack that people talk about is the pacing is very methodical. I'm not going to say slow, it's methodical. And if you can't take not a lot, but a good amount of like talking head portraits, just talking essentially like long dialogue with maybe not as much happening, I wouldn't recommend it. But there's a lot going on in the show, and it deals with a lot of, you know, emotional and psychological issues. All the characters have their own issues. It's very mature. And it contrasted like the Dragon Ball Z's, the Yu Yu Hakusho's I saw as a kid. So that's what interested me in the beginning.
Yeah, it like takes place in a game and stuff like that. Like, I know some people like they were like, you appreciate shows like Log Horizon if you're like an MMO person. Is that?
I've never played an MMO before.
Same.
My computers could never handle it back in the day, and now that they can, I don't have the time for them.
Yeah, same. And it's literally, it just really doesn't interest me to spend hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
I could spend that to so many other things. If in a perfect world where I was immortal and shit like that, absolutely, hell yeah.
Yep.
But
I'm out of the point. I'm like out of that time in my life when I have the time to dedicate to that.
If heaven exists, hell yeah, I'll play WoW with you up there. But that's a different world.
Now, before we wrap up, we did say that we wanted to do video games, and we've gone on for a while, so I have an idea. What games are you enjoying the most right now? We can end on that. What are you playing right now?
I'm gonna give a couple spoilers to stuff I'm gonna review.
Let's do it.
There was a Steam sale, and I've slowly been getting into Steam. There's a game called To the Moon, which was it's like an 8-bit story game, and it's about this old man who basically, before he dies, he wants to go to the moon. And to do that, you like go sort of back in time and make him want to be an astronaut when he's a kid.
Okay.
So it's very story driven, and it's almost sad because you see stuff like him get married, and like you learn at first he's just an old guy, he doesn't have anything, and but you learn like, oh, he at one point had a house.
Okay.
And he like couldn't afford his wife's medical bills and this house, and then you see the sad stuff, and then you see the happy stuff, and it's very weird. Like you see them get married, and you know it doesn't end well. So it's almost like conflicting.
Dude, those indie games, I mean, they are not something to turn away from. I mean, they have a lot of impact that even AAA games can't do.
Yeah, and that's one of my biggest things. I'm trying to get more into indie games, and like with certain games like Pokemon, where I didn't feel this huge emotional thing, I almost kind of blamed, oh, there's no voice acting and stuff like that. But this game almost has made me realize, like, no, I can be just as invested. Just reading, and I've read books, and there's no voice acting. So
Yep.
I guess that's kind of a bullshit analogy I had.
Yeah.
Other than that, I played Halo for the first time with my friend.
What did you think?
It was I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. And he loves Halo.
You'd be on the side of the fence I am on that one.
Yeah. We're gonna play all the Halos together, and some of my friends might be disappointed, but I have to be honest, because my reviews are completely subjective.
Yeah.
Objectively, I still wouldn't give it much higher, in all honesty.
You know, I tell you, sometimes they say games don't age well, but I played it back when it came out, and I still didn't like it back then. So, no, I'm with you.
Yeah, what else? I'm trying to think. Other things I'm gonna review: Heavy Rain. That was a while ago when I finished that.
Nice.
I'm editing my review for it right now. South Park, the game.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, I filmed that already. And I think that's it, unless I'm forgetting one.
Okay, good stuff. I'll have to check out. You said it's Walk to the moon?
To the moon.
To the moon. That's it. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check that out. So lately I've been my favorite game right now is a multiplayer game called Heroes of the Storm. I'm a big Blizzard fan. I love StarCraft, Diablo, Warcraft, and it's basically a MOBA, massively online battle arena game like the League of Legends, like the Dota 2, Smite, games like that. But it's got all Blizzard heroes, and I love it. And I play a whole lot. I've been trying to organize a team to get into a league with, so that's been cool. It's been eating up a lot of time. And I'm a pretty competitive guy sometimes, so I can get a little heated, but I have a good time playing it. So that's kind of like my online fix right now. We're saying I don't have time for MMOs. This will do it for me.
Yeah.
Also, I've been playing the... you're talking about Steam. This is a game I'm playing on Steam. It's the beta for this game called The Flame and the Flood. It should be coming out... It was supposed to come out this month. I don't know if it still is, but I backed it on Kickstarter, so I got into the beta. It's really awesome. Basically, it's this kind of post-apocalyptic world, and you play this girl who has this dog with her. It's got a very amazing, unique kind of cel-shaded art style, and you basically travel down this river that's just an infinite river that just keeps going on, and it just keeps randomly generating things. And you just have to survive. And it's a tough game.
You should link that to me because that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
based on
it's
that description.
got an amazing folk soundtrack too, done by Chuck Reagan of Hot Water Music too, and they're one of my favorite punk bands. So that's awesome. Yeah. I'll definitely link you to that. It should be coming out this month, and hopefully they stick to that.
And
other than that, there's one more game I've been playing. I just started it last night. I've never played. Well, technically I have played a Final Fantasy, but I've never played a full Final Fantasy before, so I'm starting with Final Fantasy 1. Way back.
Yeah.
And there's two reasons for that. One, I love the old RPGs like that, but two, I haven't told many people this, but a buddy of mine and I are planning on making our own RPG.
Oh, cool.
So we're in the early planning stages of that. So I needed some inspiration because we're going to be doing like a throwback 16-bit kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
you should keep me posted on
Yeah.
that because that sounds awesome.
the next 2 to 3 years, I'll let you know. But
yeah, just you should make a little Easter egg if I can be a character.
I'll make you one of the NPCs.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can be, because it's going to be like Fire Emblem where you can recruit people. So maybe you can be one of the recruitable heroes.
And hey, I write books, so maybe I'll write a character named Matt.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my 3 right now. I forgot just how little information those old RPGs would give you. Final Fantasy drops you in the middle of the world and says, have fun.
Yeah, the only Final Fantasy game I played 13 for a little bit.
Not great.
The only one I played was 10, and I would recommend that one. It was the first one's voice acting. This is obviously when you finish it or whatever.
Yeah.
It had voice acting. The characters were really great. It was like 100 hours, which is
nice.
Not easy, but it was, for me, it was well worth it. I would probably put it in like top 20 games.
Okay.
Mine. So yeah, it was definitely. It made me cry. It's the only game that ever made me
Wow.
cry. So that's an achievement.
I don't know if a game has, but shows certainly have. Games? I don't know. That's tough.
Hey, what's made you cry? A weird topic.
It's a very weird topic. I mean, even like maybe next podcast we don't have to talk about that, but shows that touched you on an emotional level. I think that that tell such a great story. I don't.
The crying thing. It kind of just shows. It says something about it. I remember Nostalgia Critic when he was reviewing The Last Airbender. He said 2 times he cried, and one was at a weird ass scene. And I just love that fact that older guy like him is watching this kid's show and it's making him tear up at a weird ass scene. It was like a comedy scene.
Nice.
And he like cried on not funny cry, but emotionally cried.
I'll tell you the show. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask if you ever watched. Oh wait, no, you told me.
I've seen the first season.
Yeah.
The show that can consistently, because the one thing, like when it hits you on that level, it doesn't always hit you that way the next time you watch it or the time after that. But the show ping-ponged the animation multiple times made me tear up a little bit because of just how emotional it gets and how deep it can be and how much it cares about the characters. And if you haven't seen that show, I can't recommend it enough.
I need
one of the best shows I've ever, and that's honestly just not anime, but one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Literally, since I started reviewing, my anime watching has gone a lot downhill. But because whenever whatever I watch, I got a review now.
Yeah.
And literally, there's been like 3 shows I tried reviewing it, and I have a bunch of these episode reviews, and Bleach was one of them. I was gonna do what I'm doing for Dragon Ball, but with Bleach. But I think a couple of my episodes got deleted, and I wasn't really that interested.
Oh, okay.
I dropped that. I dropped a couple shows, so that's why there's been a lack of anime content on my channel. But I'm almost done with one. I'm like 8 episodes in. It's like this random mystery show. It's okay. It's one of those random shows on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
And after that, I'm gonna watch Erase, which hopefully will be a lot better.
Yeah, I think you're gonna really love that show. I think you're much luckier than I am in some ways, because while you're not gonna be immediately in the conversation, it's certainly gonna be a conversation that persists, and you won't have to wait 6 days.
Yeah, I prefer binge watching.
Yeah, and that's a show to binge, that's for sure. But
yeah.
if you have time in the meantime, a show that also tells a really good mystery that I want to review one day is called Ghost Hound. You ever heard of it?
Oh, is it Ghost Hound or Hunt?
Hound.
Hound. My girlfriend is super into ghosts and that, and she's seen a couple animes. I think that's one that she might have told me about. So
Ghost Hound is really...
Is it on Netflix?
No, actually it's not. I don't think it's on any streaming service. It's amazing though, and you know what? You know what we should do at the end of this? Have one recommendation. Our one recommendation of the podcast.
I give you one recommendation?
No, just in general, like something that we recommend. It can be anime or whatever.
Okay.
And that would be mine. We recommended a lot of stuff already. It can be one of the things you already talked about, but for me, Ghost Hound. If you have not seen it, it's so good.
Yeah, if there's anything I could give, I would say those soundtracks we mentioned, just just look at some of the most popular songs from those soundtracks and take a look at them, because music is a lot easier just to look at than sitting through a whole show.
Absolutely, and you named some fantastic soundtracks too.
And I'm looking at this Ghost Town thing real quick.
Oh yeah, that was just for after. A buddy of mine borrowed this and claims he gave it back, but I know he didn't, so I may have to rebuy it if he can't find it because he moved.
This is definitely not what my girlfriend wants.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of a show called Ghost Hunt, which I think
that is an anime, and there's also
that was on Netflix.
Stories right here. I'm sure you've heard of that one.
Yeah,
my earphone came out. Hold on.
Yeah, that's her thing. So and she's
Ghost Stories is awesome, and I know we're kind of in the process of wrapping up, but basically, it was a show so poorly received in Japan that was basically a Scooby-Doo like show. They said, hey, as long as you keep the basic ghost stories and stuff like that, you can do whatever you want with the dub. So essentially they went the South Park route and made it amazing and so perverted and funny and weird, and I love it.
Yeah, I love when the dubs are like, fuck whatever, they give it a whole different feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And context. High School Was the Dead was one of those where it was like, the sub was pretty serious, but the dub tried to make it more of a comedy. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other shows that do that. Do you know of any?
See, I don't know. Ghost Town or Ghost Stories, excuse me. Ghost Stories was the one that I know the best because it's they took it in such a crazy direction.
There's nowhere. Hold on, this Ghost Town. There's nowhere I can stream it.
Nope.
I have to buy it. Oh.
I mean,
This is what happened to me with Summer Wars, where I wanted to watch it so bad I just caved in one day.
It's a lot to ask to just jump into a show like that, but it's.
And I hate illegally streaming, although I've done it sometimes.
I mean, you know, it's kind of tough when they're not in production anymore. So you're like, you want to support them, but you don't want to support scalpers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's anywhere.
Yeah, movies I've noticed are harder to get on streaming sites.
That's definitely true.
Which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's less ads and shit like that.
So apparently you can stream the subbed version on Amazon Prime and on just Amazon in general.
Oh, I don't know anything about Amazon. I'm more of an eBay.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, like, Amazon has their streaming service.
Amazon Prime does that cost money?
Yeah, it does. There's a 30-day free trial, so
I'm okay, yeah. I'm gonna do that.
I don't know if Ghost Town is on it though. It should be.
If I watch this show, if not in the next week, and review it, not the review won't come up for a while, but I promise I'm interested in this one.
Oh, perfect. You can actually watch the whole thing if you have Amazon Prime, which you can do a 30-day free trial too. I'll link you to that as well. I should be like plugged. I should be the marketer for these shows.
Yeah.
Man.
That was the whole plan.
Yeah.
Like, you work for
there
Amazon.
goes my sponsor money. There it is, right there. Nah, but it's great. I think this is only the subbed version though, unfortunately. But I mean, it's still cool.
Is it really good?
It's good, yeah. But I don't think you're missing much if you don't watch the.
When did this come out?
Apparently 2009. But I don't think. Actually, that's not right. There's no way.
Where do you buy anime?
I usually do Amazon or eBay. Amazon's got very good prices.
Yeah. Funimation always has good deals around Christmas.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll wait for that, or I'll just, you know. One time I went kind of crazy and bought a shitload one Christmas, and I kind of regretted it. I got like Full Metal Panic when I wasn't really sure what Full Panic was, and I got the second season when I hadn't watched the first one. I did that by mistake, and I was like really depressed. So I had to buy the first season, and I only got halfway through it. And not that it was bad, it was just, you know, life happens.
Yeah, there's one show I bought for review. It's called A Certain Magical Index, and I thought I was gonna like it.
It's on Netflix, right?
Is it? Because then I bought it for nothing. But it was over the summer that I bought it. But it's
add to the collection.
It didn't stand out to me at all. I plan on watching it again one day. But the first episode was not noteworthy to me, so maybe I'll enjoy it if I would try watching it again. Sometimes
we should do a. Sorry.
No, just sometimes you revisit something. You're like, okay, yeah, that's all right.
I was gonna say we should do like a collector thing one time.
Oh yeah. My collection, it's not as big as you'd think for anime in general, but certainly my dot hack collection is, you know, fucking massive. You can see it in the back of all my videos, actually.
I remember one time I looked at that shelf and I was like trying to zoom in and look at it all.
Well, I have the shot at the very end.
Yeah, you should be one of the people who do room tours and stuff.
It would be a basement you know, it's funny how you look behind the set and all that. Like, did you see Jeremy John's video for his 1 million subs?
Yep.
It's funny because if you
said,
go ahead.
I was gonna say he was mentioning how it was very underwhelming, and I kind of expected it to be once I started using green screens.
Yeah.
People just think there's like this magic. Like, there was a person trying to tell me how they're like digitally like fucking made or whatever. I'm like, no, it's literally a piece of fabric that's green, and the computer exits out green, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no magic behind it.
Yeah. It might look through camera trickery like my shelves in my room just goes on. Nope. You can see right now. Hold on. Let's get this off of here.
For the viewers, just use
use your imagination. You see, there's where my my shelves end, and then it goes to basement. So no, it's not all that impressive. I'd have to do. I got my drum set back there. That's probably the most impressive thing there is.
Yeah. Like I did say I'm gonna sell stuff after I review it, but obviously I'm not gonna sell everything, because I'm just that way. I told myself I'm not gonna sell Blu-rays, I'm not gonna sell anime, and I'm not gonna sell what else? Any PS4 or above.
Okay.
So those are cause since I like so much music and all this other random shit, and I collect for all of them, I have like so much fucking shit, and I have like a bunch of DVDs that I have, and I don't have shelves. My shelves keep breaking. I move a lot, so that's something I have to deal with. So
okay.
I collect books. Don't collect books.
My girlfriend does, and
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, keeping them in good condition can be tough.
You can get them for so cheap. They get into shitty conditions, and they take up one book is probably worth like 4 of your anime DVDs, and it's a nightmare.
Well, hell, I'm the same way with the Dot Hack books. I mean, I've got a ton down here that I don't take with me because they're gonna get messed up everywhere. I read them at home. I don't take them out anywhere.
Literally, all my books are in boxes under my bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have some in a crate somewhere. I can't find it. It's like I know, like I was looking at all my books and I was like, there's a lot missing, and like I asked my mom about it. I was like, did you see that one box? He was like, yeah, I think it's in storage.
Oh wow.
There's one, and the storage is like a giant fucking. It's like way in the back. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's not worth it. I have nowhere to put it. So.
Yeah, I'm running out of room myself now.
It's a. We'll save this for the collector.
Oh, we will. Yeah, maybe that can be next episode, the collecting.
Yeah, and I think this would be a good note to end.
I think it would. You might actually have to edit some out. We went a long ass time, but
I mean,
a lot of
it's
quality
on my second
content.
Channel. Yeah, for people watching, it's on my second channel, so I don't feel like as. My second channel has no rules, and most of the people who subscribe to that are subscribed for me. So I post so much bullshit.
Yeah,
on there.
yeah.
I really do, and I'm amazed I have like 55 subscribers.
You almost have as much as I do on my channel, so I gotta get to work.
But but I do some weird stuff that'll randomly get a lot of views. So
Nice.
That's probably why. And I have subs who won't sub my main channel.
Oh.
I try to make them, so yeah, there's that.
Well, cool. Hey, if you've listened to this point, thank you. You've heard a lot of ramblings about a lot of things. I know we try to stay on topic, but it's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, the best podcasts are ones that just have a lot of good stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah, as much as I like going topic by topic, I also like going off script.
Yeah.
I don't want it to get too rules. Too many rules, I guess.
I'd agree with that.
So for people watching, whenever I have Matt, or if I have more people on eventually, that'll be some. I don't know what I'm saying. It's late.
Yeah, it is late, and I got to get up in 7 hours. So.
Yeah, then I should definitely let you. You have responsibilities.
A few.
I'm over here thinking about watching this movie till 2 a.m. right now.
Well, see, it's funny. I'm thinking the same thing. Fuck sleep.
Yeah.
Nah, I won't be doing. I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm tired of shit.
Yeah. Then we should definitely end it at this point. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Matt, as always. And with that being said, I don't know how to end podcasts. Thank you for watching, and with that, we leave you.